Okay, so welcome to the very first Chones Party with Addigator, who is co-founder and ecosystem weaver at Chones. Thank you, Addie, for being here. I'm very excited.
Happy to be here.
So let's just get right into it. I would like to hear your backstory because I know you did some like physical health stuff, which motivated you to switch directions, and maybe you wouldn't mind going into that story.
Yeah, of course. So, just a quick side note there, too. My dad worked on distributed computing systems in the 90s. So I've always been around tech my whole life, but never thought I'd actually work on it. And then he unfortunately had cancer. So that's when I decided to study exercise science to learn how to, just be healthy and help the population too, because I knew that obesity was a big crisis that we were facing. So that's what I ended up studying. And then from there, I went into being a health coach for a giant insurance company, Aetna. I'm sure you've all heard of it. And then once I was deep in the trenches of health coaching, realized quickly that we weren't actually there to help people be healthier. We were just there to save the insurance company's money. And so then the only way to actually become healthier in America right now is to earn more money. So I was thinking about ways to have financial freedom. And I knew about crypto early on at the time. I remember Jim Cramer screaming about it on Squawk Box back in the day because I've just always cared about finance and like global economics and whatnot. And so then I happened to also know some people working at Consensus pretty early on in 2017, and then held ETH pretty early, but then you obviously couldn't do much with it until Uniswap and like DeFi summer really happened. So that's when I started getting into my degen roots. But yeah, I also was a personal trainer and group exercise instructor during the time as well. And then worked at ClassPass and some other digital health tech startups until I officially moved into crypto. So that's where we're at now. And now it's more of a passion and like hobby of mine versus like a work thing. I'm much more interested in actually advancing blockchain and crypto and whatnot these days. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really like your story because it starts with um, it starts with health, and when you think about like whole person health, like what are the things that we need to be able to, feel our best, live our best. Um, yeah, do you think like that's still a motivation for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I started like literally as Obamacare was rolling out. And I obviously like appreciated, regardless of political affiliations, just appreciated that anybody was trying to adjust what the system was at the time. But the rollout was just so poorly done because there's so much complexity to how we do it here. And it's really unfortunate because most people aren't really held back from like a motivation standpoint. It really is like a socioeconomic status situation, or like being in a food desert, or things really like outside of their control that are systemic issues. And that's why I think blockchain is so cool, because it really is trying to address a lot of these systemic challenges, regardless of if it's health related or not, whether it's coordinating local public goods, or DeFi, to just like everything in between, for the creator economy, etc. Right? So yeah, I definitely feel like that's still very relevant and important.
Yeah, I remember when we first met and you were standing in tree pose all the time, just like as a comfortable, like resting position in the kitchen. So I always think of you as like super physically healthy.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet of you. Yes. No, that was a very fun ETH Denver 2023 Camp Viddle baby.
hmm
I think that was around the time I met Glupta as well, a couple months after, who is on the call with us here today too. And then Plore I met around that time as well. So yeah, that was 2023 was a great year.
Yeah, we had fun. I want to go into that because that's like early chonies. But first, so okay, so you were doing health, and then you were trying out blockchain and crypto and stuff. But you've been really good at stewarding communities, and there's like internet communities and NFT communities and stuff. Do you mind kind of going into like that transition from you know working for like insurance and then working like in health and then working as a community steward and what led you there, and maybe do you have any like good stories from those experiences?
Yeah, sure. So while I was working in insurance, the way you actually sell insurance is through brokers that are the fiduciary responsibility for companies. And then as the insurance salesperson, I'm the fiduciary person for Aetna, the insurance company. So you actually have to actively manage a community of insurance brokers to make them want to bring their companies to your health plans. So I didn't realize it necessarily at the time, but I was inherently doing community management through that by throwing in person events and lunch and learns and just, giving updates on the latest product features that we had at Aetna and things of that nature. And then I once I left Aetna, I went to ClassPass, which, if you're not familiar with that, is a fitness aggregator app. It was acquired by MindBody in the last couple years, but it was a very popular startup in the like mid 20 teens. And my job there was a partnership development manager where I managed fitness studios to launch cities and handled the go to market strategy for different regions they when we were going into these new markets. So we were managing a community of fitness studios, and uh, that is how I kind of started to realize like community is something tangible and real. And then when I that was in 2018, so I had already known people working in crypto for Consensus at the time and realized how important like community was to crypto and like these online digital spaces, and like open source software projects, right? Like Linux and things like that. So I'm like, there's a way that this is very real, and like humans are increasingly craving connectivity and just like being part of things that they can externally signal, whether it's for moral value or just social signaling or whatever the motivator might be. But yeah, that's kind of how it all came together for me, and why I realized like community and growth and just making sure that you know, we have spaces to connect is going to continue trending, especially as the world gets crazier and crazier these days, you know.
Yeah, I I think I've told you my theory of slow, sensual, and messy. Like the more and more we have these automations and robots and stuff, the more we're gonna want slow, sensual, and messy. Um, it's just in my head, so I'm not sure if that's for sure, but it sounds fun. Um,
Definitely.
so we met at the WGMI um, Camp Biddle house during ETH Denver, which WGMI is. You want to go into that and like what that what that gathering was about?
Oh my goodness, WGMI taking us way back. Yes, so WGMI was a DAO started during the wave of 2021 when everybody thought DAOs would be the future of work and governance would be a thing that individuals really wanted to participate in. And so I got together with Matt Wright on that, who, if you're not familiar with Matt, was the community manager at Consensus, or like head of community for a long time. He's now at Gaia AI, and has just been a community leader for a long time as well. He used to work for Angel Hack, which managed hackathons for Fortune 500 companies back in the day. So he's just been doing all sorts of like community work for a long time. So when he moved to New York from LA, we linked up and we just knew we wanted to work together. And so the intent of that DAO was to not only educate and like train community managers, but to also offer community management services to other organizations, DAOs, companies, projects, etc. And through that, we were very Ethereum aligned at the time, and that's how we got plugged into ETH Denver and teaching the non-technical community and marketing track for the Camp Biddle pre-hackathon prep. Because obviously, like all of these conferences and events that we spend a lot of time going to usually have a hackathon related to them, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to hack and build. And so that's exciting, but not everybody has like a great onboarding or entry point to do it. And it can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you're non technical. But um, even if you're non technical, you're just as valuable as the technical folks. You all need to work together. So we had the opportunity at WGMI to lead the, um, like I said, the marketing track. And I led the Web3 project management segment of that, and how to just like ship and get things done in this chaotic space, because there's no like template or rule book necessarily for what we're doing here. And it was great, because we were all together at that Airbnb in Denver, um, and had a lot of great folks that were contributing to that portion of ETH Denver, and just think of that time very fondly.
So for me, it was like I had been, you know, kind of fiddling with like how do we there's so many resources and so much insight and so much inspiration all across these communities and these networks, but they're not like coming together all the time. And it was like when I was talking with you, you knew exactly what I was talking about. And it felt like I had been struggling to like figure out how to convey it for months, and then yeah, I don't know. Could you sense that?
Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, it was still very murky at that time because it was post Terra Luna, post FTX. And I think a lot of us were questioning like why we were even trying to work on this space, that just didn't feel that the initial reasons that motivated us to be here were ever going to come to fruition. But I think we've fortunately moved past that time. And so, you know, with that in mind, there was, you know, murkiness to and hesitation on your end in that sense. But now that we kind of got through it, and then we started collaborating, you know, it just kind of clicked, and you know, here we are all these years later. So,
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done without you. So thank you.
oh, you are the best. I appreciate that so much.
So I guess we that's good enough for some reminiscing. So maybe since I know we like one of the cool things about working with you is we're like I'm like the California hippie tree hugger and you're like the New York City girl raver. And so we don't like our Venn diagram only has so much overlap. Um, so I have my perspective of what's happening in the world and where crypto is headed, and you know, with tech, with AI coming into. But maybe if you, from your perspective, from the big bad city, yeah, what do you see?
Yeah, so you know what is really kept me coming back all these years, with crypto is that we know that our traditional financial institutions are not really modern at this point from a technical perspective, right? Like wiring funds takes a ridiculous amount of time. People get debanked regularly. There's also just like single points of failure from a technical perspective, even regardless of the financial. Like, I don't know if you remember the oh my gosh, what was that big outage a couple years ago?
Oh, the
Where
one where it was like the hack was security cameras.
No, it wasn't a hack. It like an intern pushed an update and then it just like messed up the entire system. And oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember what it is, but billions of dollars were lost. Like flights were not able to be managed and things like that. So that was just another like strong use case of showing like how important distributed and decentralized systems are. um oh my god, it is gonna, I have to Google it, I'm
Oh wait,
sorry.
Plur says was it CrowdStrike?
Yes, CrowdStrike, that's what it was. Thank you, Plur. Thank you so much. It was gonna drive me nuts. um yeah, and so with that, like there's clearly a need for modern programming languages that are more composable and flexible to be able to handle all the digital things that are happening, right? So that includes financial, um, you know, financial things as well, which is really important to most people. It's very emotional to people, and especially with the wars and conflicts and things like that, like it's more important than ever to just make sure you diversify access to your assets and how you can transfer funds borderlessly and permissionlessly. And so I'm really excited to see that, you know, institutions are coming on board and regulations are becoming more friendly to give clarity now, especially in the United States, with what we're working on and have been working on all these years, to now flourish it and keep driving it forward. So I don't know if there's anything you want me to expand on within that, but this is just a necessary thing that we're working on and space that we're working on. And I'm very excited to be on the front, have a front row seat and be part of it, because I missed the tech wave of like 2012 with like Facebook and social media and whatnot, Web 2, whatever you want to call it. So it's very cool to be part of the frontier of Web 3.
Yeah, it's kind of addicting, being on these like clunky new apps, like I was sports betting with Bracky, and it's like I'm talking with an AI in the feed and I'm betting on, baseball. It's wild.
Oh yeah. Well, and humans love to gamble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like just a it's and when you can make it productive because you know people are already going to do it, then why not? Like for example, like the lottery in the state of Georgia funds a certain percentage of college tuition for folks that meet a minimum GPA, to go to state schools for free. And
That's
so,
cool.
right, like, and so with like crypto and blockchain and AI and all of this, like, we can have like regenerative, opportunities, or at least, have governance and like more ownership of where the funds go, or like what the products are doing that we're using. So I think that's all really exciting as well, because again, we just know that humans are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, and like stuff like this on, some of these other like community coordination apps are filling with, incentive design with, like gating and, like rewards and tipping and stuff. And it's interesting to see how it keeps changing. And like sometimes when things get like very tokenized, it almost feels really shallow and less attention. But like if there's this nice balance of like tokenizing and like, I don't know what to say, like organic, kind of like made of flesh maybe or something. I don't even know how I would. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sort of, I think, yeah.
I mean, like, okay, so when we used to have NFTs, like, if you can compare, like, okay, how we're tokenizing content now, and we're
Right.
yeah, compared to like when we were doing NFTs, like, do you see like engagement difference or community difference?
Ah, yes. I would say yes. Now that people feel that there is economic incentive for them, just for doing what they're already doing by being online, like Farcaster is a good example. You might not be earning like enough to retire or like live on, but if you're already spending time online but you're not popular on X, for example, you still have an opportunity to tokenize and have, rewards and incentives via Farcaster content, right? And so I think that's really exciting for people. Like, one of my favorite stories of a Farcaster user is the Olympian that uh, doesn't work in crypto but funds all of her Olympic travel and equipment and like whatever she needs funding for via Farcaster. That's one of her streams of income. So I think it's just important for everybody to have multiple streams of income now, however you can do it. Whether it's through creating content or trading, or doing UGC, or other sorts of content creation. And I think that we're in a really good time to have a lot of people do that, and not just like young people, right? Not just Gen Z. You're seeing like all demographics benefit from this opportunity. So
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, I was, minting those seasonal Chones NFTs. The regulations were so scary that I wanted to make sure, like, there's no way anyone could possibly ever say that we were going to airdrop or something like that. There's no incentive. It's just like just to support or just to be part of, right? And now it's like you can totally try building a community off of your creator token and totally say like you're gonna try and incentivize engagement and support.
absolutely. And for example, what I've just started working on with Glupta and Full Sail and the Sui ecosystem, there's a lot of flexibility and freedom in what we can advertise and market versus what I could do in the past with Rari Foundation when I worked there. That was a Cayman Islands based foundation that had very strict, um, low risk, sort of conservative approaches to how they spoke about the token. But as I've started working with Full Sail and that team, there's just a lot more flexibility in how we can speak about it and excite the community and like users about what their opportunities to earn are through the decks. So love that uh, that it is becoming a friendlier environment to
Yeah.
everything that we're building. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Um, okay, so last question. We've talked about um, your experiences with Pretty Lights here and there, and how cool that community is. Do you mind kind of just going into what Pretty Lights is, what the community is, um, and just maybe some insights about, yeah, what we can learn about community from your experiences there.
Pretty Lights was actually the very first community I was ever part of. Pretty Lights is a DJ and producer and musician from Fort Collins, Colorado, that got started very early on in the like 2008 era ish, and I first saw them in Pittsburgh in 2010 or 11 or so. And just their approach to music um, was very different than anything else I'd ever heard. What they do is really focus on the soul and like roots of music, like blues and jazz and whatnot, but they infuse it with modern day samples and are really pushing the boundaries of creative technology. So the project has gone through so much evolution since they started. back in the day, and now they're a live band experience that jams like the Grateful Dead or Fish, if you're familiar with those artists. So, they have like five full members on stage at um, their shows that are live jamming everything that they're doing. Like they have a playlist and know what they're playing that night, but they don't know who's going to like rock the solo or where they're going to take the music that night until they're actually like in the moment, which I think is so just impressive and just shows how skilled you and talented you have to be. And then they also infuse sound healing frequencies into their music. So it really is like a spiritual experience, like going to church or something. Like if even if you're not religious, like there's still a really healing component to the music. And so from the community side, that's where people really connect with them as artists and as the work that they're putting out, because it just resonates with them for a variety of different reasons, whether it's grief or trying to get through sobriety or things like that. Like they just cover a range of topics that are very deep on many levels, and the community is incredibly supportive and welcoming. And if you have not had the chance to go see them, I highly recommend it. And they want to start doing blockchain stuff, so I'm trying to cook on some stuff with them whenever they're ready. But Pretty Lights is about to be a daddy, so they've got to focus on family stuff at the moment. But once they're ready for blockchain fun, we're here to help them.
Yeah, it seems like the takeaway for us might be just like the intention, the intention to be giving instead of like actually connecting with the community and trying to give something meaningful, and then that's obviously received and receptive and kind of cycles around to each other.
Yeah, and then they also want to use and leverage blockchain for better financials for their crew and the production staff, and have sort of like an algorithmic weighting to how they distribute funds based on like the contributions of each staff member that helps put the shows on. So he's very tapped into blockchain already. Like he has an ENS, he's on Farcaster. Like, he's not as active as like RAC or RAC. I forget how you pronounce it, but or Blau, for example, like some very famous like blockchain aligned DJs, but he has been very active in the space for a long time and tinkering with things. And when he found out that I worked on NFTs back in the day, he actually sent me an NFT that he created while he was doing research for his most recent tours starting in 2023. So that's a very special full circle moment, since they were the first community I was ever really a part of. And, the work that I had been working on spoke to that artist specifically. So that's a very treasured collectible that I have.
Yeah, definitely not fungible.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Those are all the questions I had. Addie, I am like, yeah, you're one of my favorite people and just really appreciate having you around and just like as a friend, as a co founder, collaborator, everything. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'll just echo all of the same back to you. Like,